Arul, are we
Hi,
on yet?
Vikrant. Yes. I think the broadcast has started, Vikrant. Hello, good evening, everyone. Let's give another 2, 3 more minutes for most of the registrants to join. So, good evening, everyone. This is Rahul Bagadia. I am Chairman and Managing Director at P Manifold. And P Manifold EV Academy is a new venture focusing on capacity building in e-mobility space. This is a global institute with global programs, and we are glad to have organized 6 different programs so far in less than a year. And this is a new program focusing on electric trucks. Again, it has been designed by practitioners. We have a work area on electric trucks working at global level for few countries, helping them develop the electric truck roadmaps. And based upon our learning, industry interactions, the gaps, the needs that we found, we developed this very unique, first of its kind global program where we will be looking into different aspects of an electric truck, very fundamentally level, going through different subsystems. And from that understanding, physical understanding of what an electric truck elements are, what makes an electric truck, then we will go into a layer deeper into understanding their sizings, their trade-offs, and building models for each of those subsystems. And then we will also let those models also interact with each other and then have a full-fledged modeling and simulation environment for electric trucks. And very uniquely, we will be doing this for two prime technologies which exist today. One is pure electric, pure battery electric trucks, and second will be hydrogen driven trucks. We will talk about like there are different technology variants within hydrogen, and fuel cell is emerging as the dominant futuristic variant where most of the OEMs are kind of targeting. So today in this session, we will cover like those needs which make us develop and design and organize this course. And this will be the first global batch that will be starting from 17th of August. Yeah. So exactly 2 weeks from now, we will have this batch starting. So let's get quickly started. lot of this point on your course motivation and objective. I just shared a lot of professionals who are already working in electric trucks or broader heavy commercial vehicle segments and looking into its decarbonization and electrification options. We have seen that while they understand those top uh, uh, mm, reasons of why to go for electrification, but we have found in quite high number of cases, almost greater than 70-80% cases, that system level understanding around electric trucks and its elements is kind of missing. So we really believe that those professionals can really go deeper into their applied areas in this technology with more refinement of those things, but keeping it very, very applied. And that is what we call it as system thinking, right? So we have to consider the different elements of e-buses, e-trucks, call it motors, call it battery packs, call it onboard chargers, right? Call it other ancillary systems, and putting together all into the horse part, the body part, and full-fledged application together with offboard chargers and those chargers respective integration with the grid and electric trucks doing different applications. At the end of day, it is a mean to carry out a job, right? But in case of the technology sensitivity to the applications, we also need to evaluate where we can apply e-trucks, right? Usually we are talking of short haul versus long haul, but it may also vary between type of loads that we are carrying, right? Like, are we carrying voluminous parcel loads, which is getting more and more with e-commerce growth, or we are carrying like bulk loads, right? Are we carrying using the rigid trucks, or we are carrying using the truck and trailers? So all those are different use cases, what load you are carrying, what distances, what type of roads you are covering, what kind of infrastructure you have access to will all define the right application where you apply e-truck as a technology and evaluate its feasibility. So this course will help the design, the planning, and the development part of e-trucks. And I kind of tend to see it in two buckets. One where the OEMs engineer level who have to design the products, and engineers may be coming from different expertise area, like they may be coming from previous ICs area, or they may be expert in either battery or thermal management of batteries or chargers, right? Or bus mechanics or bus telematics, trucks telematics part. But this course, we are looking at as a system that engineer really needs to understand the overall application, its use, its proposition, and with that deeper understanding, then go deeper into its area of expertise and ensure that the performance is not impacted. So that is where we will take a different tangent into this course, which to our knowledge is not taught anywhere in the world. Hence, you will see that in the topic itself, we have brought the title Electric Trucks Integration, right? So integration is one of the sub steps typically within a OEM jargons. There is a different role, what they call it as a vehicle integrator, and that role actually brings together the integration of all the works, right? But when at a planning and design level, someone, an engineer, is really having that system level understanding, then it really helps him or her to dive deeper into his areas and ensure that all the connections and interconnections with all the subsystems and overall vehicle performance remain strong. So that is a systems perspective that we will take in this course. And as I was saying, like one bucket is the OEM engineers, and within OEM engineers, the suppliers and different technology providers. So their learning will come through this course more on how to improve the design of overall electric trucks, right? The second aspect is like the planners, the engineers, the consultants, the donor agencies who have to select a technology, right, and put to the deployment. So this course will also allow you to understand how to draw specifications, how to draw technical and functional specifications for electric truck, given an application in hand, right? So what all things from a context you need to know, which you are able to apply and evaluate different technology options, even for one technology, different OEMs and makes, and then choose a right model, and then put a more systematic and better ROI application. So that's the second bucket. So both these two buckets will be covering in this program, and that has acted as a motivator to come out with this course. And we'll be using lot of physical understandings of the technology, the elements, and with that understanding only we will go into the modeling and virtual world, where we will be able to model them, run multiple instances of variations in those parameters and combinations of different parameters, and derive like what is best optimal fit for your applications that you are looking at. Let me invite my fellow colleagues, Vikrant and Vikrant Vaidya. Vikrant is co-founder and lead EV systems engineering practice at EV Academy. He will be one of the principal instructor with me on this program. And I also have another colleague, Soma Shekhar, who is part-time associated with us, and will also be course co-instructor with me and Vikrant on this course. Vikrant, you want to take this up?
Sure, sure, sure. So, hello all. Thanks, Rahul, for the introduction. So, we have the motivation in terms of why this course, but also why e-truck. That is also important to understand, which further makes us confident on e-truck as the future alternative. Yeah. So, first of all, the emission norms are successively getting stringent. We all know the climate pressures are there, they are real, and they need drastic actions. And you can see on the left hand side graph how the emission regulations, the Euro emission norms have evolved, and you can see they are not evolving linearly, they are evolving exponentially to the level that we can't even see the box of Euro 6, which is the current norm. Yeah, and we are soon to expect Euro 7. So it is going to be more and more infeasible to have IC engine vehicles. Another thing to note here is every time these emission norms get stringent, there is a cost associated to meeting them, which gets added to the product cost. So while we talk about the disparity in the costs of electric vehicles and electric trucks and IC engine trucks, it is not only the fact that electric trucks are getting cheaper because the batteries are getting cheaper every day, but the IC engine trucks are expected to successively get costlier because of the technology addition that is required to meet these emission norms. Yeah. On the other hand, what is the as-is comparison in terms of efficiency, which is the energy consumed per kilometer, yeah, kilowatt hour per kilometer. You can see the kilowatt hour per kilometer of an electric bus is quite low. It is not just lower, but it is lower by orders of magnitude. Yeah, so we have 4.3 kilowatt hour per kilometer in diesel, and 3.8 in CNG. These are typical figures. Yeah. And in electric trucks, we look at around 1.25 to 1.5 kilowatt hour per kilometer. It's literally less than. I mean, the reduction is more than 100% here. Yeah. So, however, what we see is also the difference in the, and it is on the other. It's the other way around. So, for a like-to-like, typical capacity in terms of fuel tank and in terms of battery capacity, you can see the range of electric truck is still relatively much lower as compared to diesel and CNG. And why that is the case is because of the energy density of the fuel on board, or the energy storage device on board. And you can see there how diesel is again order of magnitude higher, both diesel and CNG, as compared to our battery technologies as of now. And then what it warrants is also the recharging and refueling is relatively fast. Yeah, even with the fastest chargers, we look at close to an hour of charging, whereas refueling a truck will take 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. So these are the challenges that we face. While there is opportunity in terms of emission norms getting stricter, there are challenges that we face in terms of electrification of all the applications of the trucks. So can move forward. If you want to add something, Rahul or Soma.
I think this is good, Vikrant.
I also don't have anything to add.
Do I have to cancel my?
Yeah.
Just a second.
Yeah, now I think you have the right pointer.
Oops. I'm not able to move my pointer forward, Vikrant. Just a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only are the emissions, tailpipe emissions in terms of the harmful gases that are getting stringent, but many countries in the West already have what we call as CAFE norms. So they are targeting the CO2 emissions. So when we talk about IC engine efficiency and reducing the emissions, what happens is you actually are converting everything into CO2. Yeah. So you have CO, carbon monoxide, or unburnt carbon, which is soot. Those being converted into CO2 in the catalytic converter. What is coming out of the engine is being converted to CO2 in the catalytic converter. So CO2 is something you cannot escape emitting in an IC engine, whatever you do, right? So that is your product of the combustion. Because you are burning hydrocarbon, you are going to get CO2 and H2O. There is no getting away from that. But to reduce that, what is happening is you have to inject for the same amount of power or energy that is being generated by the engine. You are trying to inject less and less fuel, so that you have less and less CO2 coming out. So that's what is targeted by CAFE, which is Corporate Average Fuel Economy, or CFC, which is Corporate Average Fuel Consumption, or CO2 strategies. Europe and even India is going to CO2 strategy. So you have to reduce the CO2 or in turn reduce the fuel that is being consumed for every kilometer that you run. Yeah. So there are these norms which are coming up even in developing countries now. They were already there in the Western world, Europe and the US. They are also coming to India, and they will eventually not far off into the future, but very close to coming into effect in other countries as well. So these norms, what they will do is put additional pressure not only in terms of the after treatment systems to curb the other emissions, but also the overall efficiency of the system to have less and less CO2 emissions. And this is an example of a recent notification in India by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, where they have proposed this maximum fuel consumption limits for each class of truck. So we have right from intermediate, light, intermediate trucks going up to medium and heavy duty trucks. Yeah, you can see the truck segments uh, showing the GVW, the gross vehicle weight of the trucks, and also their axle configurations. So based on that, these limits have been suggested, and we have interpreted them for you in the bar chart below, where you can see a light truck or an intermediate commercial truck cannot have more than, sorry, less than I think 4.5 kmpl. You cannot have at 60 kph, and at 40 kph you cannot have it less than 6 kmpl. Yeah. So this is going to be another challenge for IC engine trucks to meet, and hence the electrification is eventually going to come as a solution. So these CAFE numbers incidentally are tracked at fleet level. So when we talk about fleet level, there is fleet meaning the OEM sales, overall product portfolio. So OEMs are going to come up with electric trucks to at least partially have electrification to meet these CAFE norms, because the electric truck doesn't have any CO2 emission out of tailpipe.
And I find it interesting when you interpret it by saying that with higher and higher emission standards, making those ICs will become costlier. And from the economic perspective also, the OEMs, also guided by the getting stringent CAFE regulations, will be driven more and more towards electrification options of their productions and sales.
Right. Yeah. So this is a comparison of the propulsion systems that are employed in the trucks, and the comparison between IC engine and pure electric. And we will have another option after we go through this. Yeah. So we have energy source as the fuel tank in IC engine trucks, and in pure electric we have the battery, onboard battery. Yeah. Then we have the propulsion is done by the engine itself in IC engine trucks, whereas the traction motor is what drives the wheels of a pure electric truck. Then we have speed load control, which is done by engine management system, which is an electronic controller. In pure electric as well, it is an electronic controller, often a vehicle controller or a battery management system, which will try to optimize where you run. However, one good thing about electric motors is you have a much wider band of good efficiency zones as compared to IC engines. So it's that much easier for the controller to optimize the performance of a pure electric truck as compared to an IC engine truck. And then you have alternator, which is generating the electricity on IC engine truck to power electrical devices or charge the battery So you have blowers, you have fans, cooling fans, you have illumination, you have infotainment and all that. So all the tracking systems are powered by that. Sometimes you also have onboard cooling. The cabin is cooled in the trucks, or the cargo could also be cooled for perishables, for example. So all of that will be powered by battery in pure electric vehicles, whereas in IC engine vehicles, the refrigeration or the compressors required in refrigeration or air conditioning, they are powered by the engine directly. So here you have more again leeway to optimize the accessory loads by running them with dedicated motors which are not linked to the traction motor. Here in case of IC engines, it is linked to the IC engine. So IC engine will run at the speed and load which is defined by the vehicle operation and not by the demands of the accessories, and this puts stress on the IC engine and it lowers its efficiency further. Whereas in pure electric, you can actually have optimum efficiencies isolated or decoupled in terms of propulsion as well as in terms of running the accessories. Now, if we look at a fuel cell truck, so fuel cell truck is essentially an electric vehicle with fuel cells coming in as range extenders. Rahul, if you can click once to bring up the fuel cell. Yeah. So they are essentially electric vehicles because you can see the powertrain is the same: traction motor, electronic controller, low voltage DC-DC converters, regenerative braking. All of that is available in fuel cell electric vehicles as well. What it does is, instead of having a large battery as the onboard energy storage, it has a smaller battery to take care of the transients in demand, power demand particularly. And it uses a fuel cell to convert hydrogen, which is provided on board in terms of a tank, to convert hydrogen into electricity and keep charging the battery, keep replenishing the battery to power the vehicle. So you do not have the constraints of a pure electric vehicle where your battery needs charging after it has exhausted its range. Here the charging can continue constantly, and the refilling of hydrogen is similar to refilling of diesel or CNG. Yeah.
So I think the one thing I was discussing with a couple people kind of asking this question, which should come first, like with our advancements on the electric EV side, but lesser on the trucks and more on the buses. Does the bus architecture provide us a good pathway to deepen the same penetrations on pure electric trucks? So that is a question. And second, with hydrogen advancements in terms of the technology, which Vikrant was differentiating as a fuel cell combustor, uh, uh, plus hydrogen availability itself, like in terms of what different greenness intensity of hydrogen that is available and its cost and the required infrastructure that needs to be set up. So between all those advancements, as the technology is moving faster on both this part, pure electric as well as fuel cells, with pure electric being ahead, more matured, given that it's a lighter variant, like buses are already existing, already viable. So with that kind of a thing, are these two very different technologies or they have a convergence? So what Vikrant was just explaining between this example here, you see that let's assume we go with full pure electric route, and at appropriate time, depending on the application, when we have a replacement cycle of the battery, the other part of the system pretty much remains the same. What gets changed is that big battery, the big lithium ion battery or whatever chemistry, that is now changed into three different subsystems, right? So hydrogen also provides a very good kind of a forward transitioning part of existing pure electric technology as well, right? So I think we are not talking of technology going obsolescence. I think depending on case to case, and in the course we will understand a lot of different use cases and why one technology over other becomes more viable, both in terms of technology and also in terms of commercials. So I tend to think about hydrogen advancement coming in terms of taking forward the already existing pure electric pathway. Uh, uh, the technology not getting obsolescence, but kind of getting augmented with hydrogen, and then the hydrogen path can get further strong.
Now how do we add all of this, all these subsystems that are part of electric vehicle as well as the fuel cell electric vehicles? How do we add these? How do we size these? How do we select these? Yeah. So basically, when you start from scratch, as is the case in as is the case in a lot of countries where you have few or no electric trucks available as of now. Usually in IC engines, we have reached that maturity that we are only doing differential change, but here that the change is a big one. So here there is a good opportunity to use virtual models in development of these products. And what virtual models provide as benefits we'll see in subsequent slides. But what you can do is treat these as your prototypes, virtual prototypes, and then understand the requirements from the vehicle to the subsystem. And that actually helps you size these subsystems to greater accuracy. You can do these trade-offs with data that is generated through the virtual models, and you can actually drive a pretty close to final selection as well as sizing activities for motor, for battery packs. And when we talk about fuel cell, again, you can again do the optimization of onboard energy between the battery pack and the hydrogen storage or hydrogen tank using the fuel cell as the intermediary. So there are aspects of all of these sizing covered in the course for you to understand at the integration level, system level, how to affect these sizings, how to influence them, and how to link them to the vehicle requirements for each application, for each segment of the vehicle, of the truck. How do you link those? And that will provide you with not only the insights into what is the process to do these sizings, but also to do these using virtual models in a more robust manner based on more data than gut feel and benchmarking, and doing it more often first time right. You do not have to do those design iterations on prototypes if you have done those iterations in virtual models already. So there will be an option of tools as well, as we will look at in the oncoming slides. So this is a case study that we did in our consulting work, a project that we have done, a feasibility study for e-trucks for a particular application. We will actually go through this generic process during the program at each stage, what is to be done, how you, in what sequence you should do this planning for the product development. Yeah, starting right from what is the IC engine fleet, catering to that application, what kind of IC engine vehicles or trucks are currently doing that job. Can there be a one-on-one replacement? If not, what will be the best advantageous replacement strategy where you cater to with less number of electric trucks? Because you remember, electric trucks as of now are costlier than the IC engine trucks. So if you can reduce the number of trucks with the electric trucks, it can provide some relief in terms of the overall fleet cost. And then if you go ahead one more slide, Rahul, how to bring in the virtual modeling into this. You can actually map the real world use cases like we have done here, collecting the data of the duty cycle, which is speed versus time. So at what time you have what speed, and using that as well as the distance versus grade, what is the terrain the trucks are operating in. Using those two data points, we can do overall e-truck simulation and come up with what is the energy consumption, what is the power demand of the motor, and then what is the range that you can expect in the real world. Oftentimes, the range quoted in the specifications is certification range, and certification, as we saw, is done in very ideal conditions: 40 kph constant, 60 kph constant. Those are not the conditions in which the trucks run, as you would be aware of. So doing these real world duty cycles, how to do those, how to use those, and estimate real world range for a particular application with a particular loading pattern on a particular terrain. And then using these, you can then actually do a meaningful total cost of ownership comparison with ICE fleet, because oftentimes the energy consumption, if it is not real world, the numbers that you compute based on certified range and the certified fuel economy numbers, it can be quite misleading. Yeah. So this will be a more fair and more practical comparison that you would be capable of doing using these processes that we will go through in our training.
I think this approach
Anything?
of learning, starting with the use case, like where is your truck going to get used, what environment, what terrains, what load, what cycling of those loads, what kind of a wait times, what typical distances, and to a higher specificity of the duty cycle that we are representing here. Uh, that actually we have found is a very strong way of checking EV feasibility, uh, rather than approaches of using thumb rules of 1 kilowatt hour or 1.5 kilowatt hour per kilometer, but not understanding like what all those factors which will influence this energy consumption, and then basing your overall economics for that specific applications. So this approach is very powerful way, and you will be able to learn this approach applying on different technologies, right? Within a truck, light, medium, heavy duty trucks, and within technologies, we are talking of pure electric, ICs, and also the hydrogen variants, right? So same technology, where and what difference a technology kind of brings, and how do you kind of tweak your models, and on really kind of apple to apple comparison able to evaluate and find the best fit of technologies for you. So this is about total cost of ownership. So this is one of the metric after understanding the technical feasibility that we looked into how part in the previous slide. Then we look into the performance from total life cycle perspective and defined by total cost of ownership, which includes all the different capital costs and operational costs. And again, because you will be studying both hydrogen as well as pure electric, we'll be developing very detailed TCO models, not just theoretical, but driven through practical applications and bringing all the technicalities from the previous simulations and models into your TCO assumptions, so that your TCO assumptions are very close to ground reality, right? And that is very important, because that is one number basis to which we intend to take decisions on overall feasibility and scale ups. So you will learn a very detailed total cost of ownership modeling across different technologies. This is basically, here we are talking because we are taking a pivot and focusing on systems engineering and doing it very analytically using the modeling approach and simulations. So this is where we have listed the advantages of virtual systems based modeling. At the end of the day, it allows you to ask different questions, change those different combinations of the parameters in your model, and understand the end performance impact of those variations, and then be able to select what is the right model. Vikrant, you want to add any quick points here?
Yeah. So the approach of systems engineering is actually the advantages you get is focus on the usage of the product rather than the product itself. You may design the best truck, but unless it has a application which eases the life of the end user, you will not get any takers. Prioritizing the optimization of the system over great individual. You do not sell motors and batteries, right? You can have the best motor if it is coupled with incapable battery. You do not unleash the motor's full potential, and vice versa. Yeah. Then the trade-offs that you do are robust because they are inclusive, because you are always thinking of the system, not thinking of how my particular subsystem performs the best. Yeah. Then there is traceability in terms of failure modes. There is traceability in terms of root causes. Even there can be good system level preventive maintenance, or even setting up system prognostics. Nowadays you have connected vehicles where you have access to the vehicle running data live, monitoring them and averting those breakdowns. And then it also helps drive standardization by enabling a precise subsystem requirement. So when you have the precise subsystem requirement, and you there is an aggregation of these requirements across platforms, it helps you do a much better job, which you already see in IC engines, where you have the same engine catering to a wide variety of segments. Yeah, starting from 25 tons to all the way to 60 tons, you have same engine doing the job with minor modifications in terms of the fuel mapping, the EMS map calibration, and the drivetrain ratio, and or the fuel tank capacities. Yeah. The virtual system model actually helps you do this system engineering in a much better manner, and at a very early stage in the program, where you have a virtual system model to play with, to look at what are your requirements from the vehicle, and what it takes to meet those requirements. Then always providing that ability to evaluate certain subsystems or components in the entire vehicle system environment. Yeah. So all of these benefits enable the system engineering aspects or procedures in a much better manner when you use the virtual tools to do these calculations or estimates.
Here we have listed down. Vikrant, is my voice echoing?
No.
Okay. So here we have listed down the beneficiaries of this program. As I started with that point, like this program is designed keeping in things two broad buckets. One, the design of electric trucks, which usually happens at the OEM side, the e-truck assembler manufacturers, the battery chargers, motors suppliers, and their supply ecosystems. So that's where the lot of engineering, integration of vehicle and all testing happens. So that's a big segment which will really benefit from bringing this user centricity into its design and applications, considering across all the subsystems and tying up to the vehicle performance. So that's a very powerful way. Then the second use case will be the operators who will be running and deploying the electric buses, electric trucks, right? So that will include the truck operators, fleet operators, that will include the charging system providers. The truck will require a very different form of charging. Like you know that you have at least intra-city buses runs from depot, and a lot of current applications are focused on overnight depot-based charging, right? But in case of trucks, especially when we are talking of medium heavy-duty trucks, they have a different architecture. More of these trucks runs interregional, interstate, and need a very different layer of level of charging infrastructure. So the energy service provider and other infra providers becomes a very important part of deployment. No deployment happens without a right funding, without a right policy ecosystem, and that's where the multilaterals, the funding agencies, the researchers, including government departments who are involved in researching, providing funds for either technical advisory roles or appraisal of projects or even running pilots. Uh, those becomes very important stakeholder to learn from this very system level of application design, finding those right use cases where you will apply electric trucks, pure electric versus hydrogen. So they are very important stakeholder whom this course is very directly applicable. And there is a very strong consulting uh, community, be it on the technical side, be it on the procurement or financial side, or be on the strategic acquisition side, or on the operation side. So the consultants can really strengthen their existing domain knowledge by going deeper into the technicalities through this program and then tying up with their strength, with their current domain work in this space. The course is equally also applicable to institutions, including students, academicians. The space is really emerging fast. The language of instruction we have kept it very kind of lucid, very applied, taking right pauses appropriately through mix of teaching, practicals, assignments, then mini projects to be done in a team, then bringing industry global case studies with experts talking and sharing their best works. So between all these combinations, we believe that the students and faculties really could grow themselves into this new space and drive better R&D and better innovations. So these are the stakeholders whom we believe can really benefit strongly from this course. Let Vikrant quickly walk you through the broad structure, how this program is organized. Broadly, we have organized it over a 7 weeks course. This will be delivered live online with me, Vikrant, and Soma appropriately taking up sessions. We have organized 3 sessions in a week, what we call it as 2 theory sessions, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Saturdays is more a practical time where you will, whatever you have learned in the week, you will be applying and some exercise, some models, some tools on your own machine, on your own laptop, and you will have the assignment to practice both that theory and practical learned and then submit your case study based assignments. So that's the broad architecture that we have kept for the program. Vikrant?
Yeah. So in terms of coverage, you can see we what we talked about. We would be starting with the basics of electric truck, their classification, their segmentation, what matters where, their applications. Very important to understand all the diverse applications that a e-truck would see, and then finding out which are the priority segments, which are the high impact segments, and so on. Then how these regulations affect. There was a recent change in the regulation which affected drastically the segments. There was a reshuffling of the segments. So we'll talk things about that like that. Then we will go through the electric truck systems, batteries, motors, and then also looking at the powertrain overall in terms of power and energy requirement, battery management systems, how they work, chargers, how they work, how to select those, how to size those, and then we will also look at how to do the costing of these once you have kind of understood what are the subsystems and the ecosystem required, the charging ecosystem required for the trucks. We go into how to have these rationalized in terms of total cost of ownership or cost per kilometer or the operating margins that the customers or the end users of the truck work with, and compare them with IC engines, and then also bring in the element of the fuel cell or the hydrogen based trucking into the picture. Once you understand all these processes and how to do the costing, we bring in the hydrogen aspect of it as an add-on, where you can generate those scenarios like you have done for the battery electric truck. You can do it for the hydrogen as well, and then do a really like-to-like comparison as to where the IC engine stands, where the battery electric truck stands, and what more applications can a fuel cell enable for the battery electric truck. There will also be online assessment, as well as you would be doing a mini project which will take some real life problem and attempt to solve it using systems engineering principle and the calculation or the simulation tools that you will learn through the program. So there will be a certification. It is not a certificate of participation. It is a certificate that you would have earned going through the assignments, the project, and the online evaluation.
So very important here, if you will see, like we will start with the basics, then we will delve deeper into the pure electric option, both on the technical side, subsystem sides, then going into the cost and the overall TCO modeling. And all this will be done on a platform using tools with commonality for adding and discussing and creating scenarios for hydrogen. Right? So once we enter into the hydrogen technology, though the number of days here may appear less, but we are able to base it on all the knowledge that we would have built in here, and using the same tools, creating a scenarios, worksheets for hydrogen, and running it and really seeing and comparing with ourselves, like where in current evolution hydrogen is standing in terms of performance, both technical and cost, in terms of what applications are more favorable for one technology over the other, and where the technology and other focus, including business models, needs to happen to really make them better viable for more and more applications. So those things we will kind of cover it up and leveraging upon the all the learnings and foundations that we would have built in the previous sessions. These are three trainers. Myself, I have introduced myself, 20 years plus experience, co-founding P Manifold, being in automotives before, particular focus on thermal management in automotives, and last 12 plus years at P Manifold, leading the utility and e-mobility practice. Vikrant, as I said, like he's CEO, co-founder at EV Academy, and at P Manifold he leads the EV systems engineering practice. And last 20 years he has spent in automotives, doing the design, development, vehicle integrations, modeling and testing for pure EVs and hybrids. So that is Vikrant. Soma has 15 years experience, again coming from automotive development, primarily focusing on engine designs, controller developments, powertrain designs, and last few years have been focused around e-mobility, and is working with us developing the content, and he will also be joining some of the sessions. So that three of us, and in addition to us as primary trainers, we will have global experts who will bring their respective e-trucking and hydrogen case studies and learnings across the globe. So those slots, they are very important part of our learning, and many of these experts will also form our jury panels for mini project evaluations. So you will have your work being evaluated by some of the global experts on the e-trucking topic, so that you really learn from their vast experience and go into the finer level of applied learnings into your future work in this space. Soma, you want to add anything on your side?
I think he has some technical difficulty. I don't see him online.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
We can forward. As Vikrant was saying, like we go with usually, like we have been running similar batches with other applications, and we use two broad tools. One is Excel, and another more advanced and equivalent of MATLAB called Scilab tools. And for this program, again, we intend to use both combinations, Excel and Scilab. There are advantages of Scilab when we had to handle dynamic modeling much better and faster over Excel. But depending on if you come from non-engineering background in particular, let's say transport planning and other parts, and if you find difficulty in model-oriented Scilab kind of language programming and coding, then you could very well be using Excel without kind of impairing any part of the learning in the program. So we will have both the tool options, Excel and Scilab. Vikrant, anything to add here?
Just that Scilab is quite similar to MATLAB Simulink if any of you have used it, as you can see from the screenshots put here. And I myself worked in MATLAB Simulink for a long time. Even Rahul has worked extensively in MATLAB Simulink, and we find it almost same. So if you learn through Scilab, it actually also provides you that opportunity to understand how dynamic modeling is done in MATLAB Simulink. The reason why we are using Scilab is because it's a freeware and it doesn't have any license restrictions, and you still can create your own IP, your own models, your own libraries without having to sacrifice the confidentiality or your IP. Such. So Scilab is the choice. However, if you already have access to MATLAB Simulink and you want to use that, no issues. You can use that. We will be more than happy and capable to address your questions in terms of modeling, even in MATLAB Simulink.
So I think this is what we have to kind of share as part of today's session. We really love to interact more with you to understand what kind of questions you would have. Uh, and we look forward to have you in our 17th August starting batch for electric trucks integration, covering pure electric and hydrogen options. So questions, if any, if you can please share your questions over the chat window,
I think there
broadly?
are a couple, there are a few already, in fact. One of them I think is answered, which tools will be used for virtual simulation. I think we just answered that in the last two slides. There is another question regarding the recent change in the maximum axle load regulations. And it has been, the commercial vehicle GVW has been increased up to 55 tons max. It's alternate, is it I think the question is, are these changes all compatible with the alternate energies? It's not about compatibility. The alternate energy, like the battery electric vehicle or fuel cell vehicles, they are coming up. So they have the advantage of this look ahead in terms of these capacity changes. Another good thing about electric vehicles in general is the scalability of the electric motor and even the battery, because you can actually have modules of those and employ them accordingly. So there is also basically a requirement in terms of how many axles get the drive to carry a certain amount of load, and that multiple axle getting the drive is easier to implement in electric vehicles with having dedicated traction motor for each axle, and not having to worry about synchronization of speed, because synchronizing the speed of electric motor is way easier compared to the IC engine. So you cannot have multiple IC engines doing the propulsion duties on a truck, but it is quite possible to have multiple electric motors doing the job of propulsion on a e-truck. And that's the modularity which is actually better suited for these kind of regulation changes as compared to IC engines.
I just, I just want to add one thing. Actually, regarding the compatibility, I think that's what this course is more about. How to like size your motor to meet your requirement. How to size your battery or fuel cell to meet your requirement. So I will say like it's very much in line with your thinking. And if you can join this course, definitely your all questions will be addressed.
Thanks so much.
There is one question. Hello, with this course, are you providing any placement assistance for those who are not working? I think it's a very relevant question and very important. Thanks to whoever has put this question. With the entire automotive industry going a major change globally, I think there is a shift of knowledge and skills that the industry is looking. And one of the rare most skills is really a systems engineering and integration skills that are required by the industry. So definitely we have seen from our previous batches completed in different applications, be it electric freights, electric buses, broadly battery management systems design. We have course participants who have been able to secure good jobs. There have been course participants with their curiosity and level of enthusiasm and sincerity during the course. Within P Manifold, they have joined as analyst and consultant roles as well. There have been cases where some of the experts have included kind of undertaking training of trainers role with P Manifold EV Academy, where with their learning and already past 20-25 years of experience in automotive world, they are inclined to join us as part-time trainers for the program. We have received requests from our clients and other industry professionals asking for recommendations of good people who have undertaken this course with their depth of knowledge either on the electric power drive system design or on specific electric freights or bus or truck applications. So I think the list goes on and on. What I want to give it as a message is like it is more important what you bring on the table. The deeper you are able to go into this course in terms of your applied skills, practicing those things, reflecting that in your work, I think no one can really stop you from success. And we at P Manifold EV Academy, with our broad umbrella of P Manifold and global work, we will support what best we can support. But it really has to come from you. That sincere dedication to learn and go deeper into the applied part of it. So this course is really an applied course, taking you to a next orbit in e-mobility solutions design. Then there is a question, maybe you and Soma can share your experience, like as a product engineer, already working on commercial e-bus platform, how this course can help me expand my knowledge and skills on trucks, and how much of that pure electric knowledge will be applicable for hydrogen truck development, because that is not the area my company has not yet committed. So
Sure,
for a
sure.
product designer in early roles, or even with let's say 10, 20, 15 years of experience in conventional automotives, how this course benefits them, Vikrant, and also Soma, if you can share your own experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, this provides a very good opportunity for product development engineers to also connect to the application side of the trucks. As I said previously, the variety of applications that the trucks see, the same segment, the same product sees a huge variety of applications, and also to a large extent a huge variety of operations operation models as well. So because of that, this course will help you derive these use cases, derive these unique aspects of usage, and apply them in your development. And the best way to do that is through virtual modeling. So you can bring in those use cases, not just as design cases, but even during your concept, proof of concept, or technology selection phase in the product development. You can bring in those use cases and evaluate which are the ones you would cater to with this technology, which provides you the widest coverage of these applications, and so on. So this course will enable you to do that. And it also provides, there is another question regarding the focus on the Indian market or global. This course is very much global because we bring in insights not restricted to India specific dynamics of the market, but also bring in the global perspective as to how the electrification is being achieved under different situations and scenarios, and also learning from the best practices that are being followed in more in the countries which are right now more advanced in terms of electrification of trucks, and what we can learn both from what they did right, but also from their mistakes. So we also touch upon those. So it's very much a global course, and it is very much in line with the product development, and using virtual tools to do product development is a proven uh, process or procedure, which gives you robust designs, which saves you cost, and which lets you try out so many scenarios of usage or applications very much upfront. So it gives you a wider acceptability of the product.
Sure. And I think on this
Yeah,
global versus Indian thing, I think it is very important that we do not want to claim ourselves that this course will cover everything around policy, designs, and all other things, because that is what something varies and there are learnings to do. across countries. But if you look into the course structure design, our case studies chosen are base cases. They are most fundamental. In fact, that is the beauty of systems engineering, that an electric truck operating in US versus Europe and India will be very similar. The internal, the mechanics part of it, it's a response part of it, right? So all the tools have been developed where we actually allow you freedom to kind of change the models and assumptions during the course. And remember, this is only a 6 weeks course, right? So you have to set up your expectations right. We do not want to be kind of a course which is available on all different free webinars where a lot of top level insights on TCOs and others are getting shared. But then as an engineer, how does it help me design a strong product, or how does it help me to design and plan a strong deployment and fleet plan? That remains not understood. So this course is kind of that mix of right fundamental level technical, which will allow you to connect very strongly with commercial, business, and legal designs. But we will not spend too much time on that aspects. With the fundamentals getting strong with right tools and understanding to derive in any currency for any country for any applications, we want to empower you to take those things to the next level. And hence that also important the project part of it, where we give you that kind of a freedom to really work on a project that is most relevant to you. And here you have opportunity to bring your country or your organization or your project specific data points, and we will help you solve those things again within the scope of this project. And we build long relationships. Like we are working on supporting some projects in Nepal, some in Ghana and Zimbabwe and others, where just because they were our students and now they are trying few things in Rwanda and other countries, it is a learning for us, and we continue to work and support them to really help them to move forward into what they really envision with the start of this course. So for us, it's a start of a journey with you, and we value that relationship very much. Soma, sorry, you were also to add on your experience for a product engineer. Oops, did we lose Soma again?
I'm there, Rahul. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, I totally agree with what Rahul and Vikrant said. The best part is like you will be executing a project here so that whatever the learnings you are getting from the trainings, you can apply it. And if you have any questions, like any doubts, if you're stuck with anything, we are there to help you. So that even you can take the your company projects also, or you can, even you can say you can take the projects which are interesting for you on personal front also. So we'll be there to help you, and we'll definitely acknowledge you with the all the right tools and right equipment so that you can become a matured design and developing engineer.
Thank you. I think everyone, we have gone 13 minutes over and above our scheduled time. So I will be, my team and I will be very happy to answer any more questions that you may have. You can drop us email. Swapnil will share his email on this thing, and we will also drop you a follow-up mail. You will have the recording of this session, which if you want to share with any of your colleagues whom you want to tag along with the course, the learning and project work and everything becomes a fun when you have a buddy. So we encourage the buddy concept from your organization or from any other associations. Tag along a buddy. We also have scholarship applications. We do this because we enjoy teaching, sharing, and also learning. If there are any financial constraints that anyone face, I would encourage that please fill up our scholarship application form online, and it has its last date. So I would request you to do it timely, and it allows us to extend even to the order of 100% scholarships. So that we are here to kind of really work with you if you are really serious of this learning. So with that, I would want to say good evening to everyone, and look forward to have you in our batch starting on 17th August. There are two prize points. One is for professionals and second is for students slash faculty slash non-profit institutions. And you can pretty much register it online under these two categories. And if there is a big group from your organization that is interested, you can write to us and we'll be happy to kind of discuss our group discount schemes. Again, all the policies of group discount and numbers are also there on the website, but we are happy to kind of interact with you and see what best we could do. So thank you very much, and look forward to stay in connect. Thank you. Thank you, Vikrant. Thank you, Soma. Thank you, Swapnil, for organizing this session.
Yeah, thank you all. Take care and hope to see you in the first class.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. Bye.